humankind. So when we take this, we can put together an idea that tells us that it is the establishment of dogma, doctrine, fabricated by men that supplant or restrain the word of Elohim. You get that? That some of the doctrines that we hold on to is what actually keeps us under bondage and doesn't allow us to move forward in our relationship, in our walk. Okay? This is injurious to our spirit. Why do we live? To do the will of Yehovah Eloheinu, or do we live to follow the doctrines and the dogmas of men? There's a choice. What is the purpose of my being? Is to have a relationship with Elohim, or to make everybody around me happy? Something that we have to choose. Now, the answer we'll actually find in the next phrase, and she went to inquire of Yehovah. Now, we read in verse 20 that Isaac went and entreated Elohim. He went and prayed to Elohim. But here, she's going to inquire of Elohim. So, we kind of see another side of things. The difference is that one is a petition, and the other one is to seek an answer. On the one, I'm asking for something to be done. The other one is I'm going to find an answer.
The first one is what is a what?
The first one is a petition. I'm going before Elohim to request something. But to inquire is I'm going before Elohim to get an answer. Now, this is the other side, or another side of Ish, in that we must seek Elohim to live alongside of our study of His Word. This is why we have to have a relationship based on truth that will nurture us spiritually. This is why we come to the Father through Yeshua, His Word, and by the power of Mashiach, His anointing. Now, why did Rebecca go and entreat of Yahweh?
Inquire.
Or inquire. Why did she go inquire of Yehovah? Why didn't she go to Jacob? Or, I'm sorry, why didn't she go to Isaac? Well, the whole thing with Isaac, we consider the thing between Isaac and Abraham, and this is according to Rashi, is that it would have brought up memories of the last time that there was a struggle and the potential loss of a child, that Abraham found Isaac and offered him up. So she didn't go to Isaac to talk about it because, the possibility of losing the children would have been hurtful to Isaac. And this is what Rashi says. But Rashi's interpretation of this is that she went to Shem, the son of Noah, to inquire of Yehovah through Shem's intercession. Now we have to understand that Shem is still alive.
Wow.
Shem is still alive at this point. And his son Eber is alongside of Shem. And they're still teaching the world about Elohim. They're teaching about the one true God. This is how Abraham, if we read the Talmuds, if we understand the book of Yasher, it tells us that it was through Shem and through Eber that Abraham came to his understanding of the one true Elohim. So she goes to inquire of Shem. Now, this is according to Rashi's interpretation. And if we consider Rashi's interpretation, okay, if we consider Rashi's interpretation, then we consider that Shem means name. So our inquiry is made through the name by the word and the anointing of the name, who was, is, and is to come, who is Yahuwah, in whose name is our redemption, our restoration, our deliverance in his word, Yeshua, and through whom we have a relationship and are empowered by his anointing, which is Mashiach. Both things are in his name. Yeshua is the restoration, redemption, and deliverance of Yahuwah. Mashiach is the anointing of Yahuwah. So we have a different idea than what the traditional doctrines tell us. We say, do we understand anything? And this opens a can of worms, and some people kind of cringe at it, but what does it mean to be saved by Jesus Christ, as opposed to being delivered by Yeshua through the power of Mashiach? This is something that we really have to take a hold, because one way is you have a form of reverence, but you deny the power of it. Because this is where it gets sticky, that I'm depending on my salvation by, we say Jesus Christ is what our language tells us it is today. It's what we use in English language. It comes from Greek roots that means the anointed son of Zeus. Is that where our salvation is? Or is our salvation within the language of Elohim, within the word of Elohim, in Yeshua, which means the deliverance of Yahuwah, by the power of HaMashiach, by the power of the anointing of Yahuwah in our lives? Then we have power behind it. In fact, we have the power of the most powerful entity in existence and beyond, in which we are in a relationship with. And this is something that we have to consider in our walk. There's a whole lot in these verses. There's just a whole lot. So I chose, I guess, 3 of the most important things for us to consider out of them. But again, this is the reason for having this in English and in Hebrew, is to encourage you to take time, even just a few minutes a day, just to, pick a word. Pick a word. Why is this word used over this word? And, we saw that one verse in English said that Adam had a son, and he named his son Seth, but we look in the Hebrew and the word son isn't anywhere to be found in the Hebrew. Why does the English add words where the Hebrew does not? Because we get a totally different understanding in the Hebrew than we do in the English. But it's our responsibility to keep up with that end of our relationship.
I do have a question.
Sure.
I know that there's a lot of wrong, a lot of false and a lot of doctrines that how close is the English and the Hebrew how close are they on? Are they at all?
There's some places where it is, and there's some places where words have been added in English to help us to understand a story. But oftentimes the Hebrew isn't telling us a story.
It's telling us.
It's giving us an idea that we have to consider. For example, the deal with Adam, I think everybody was here for it, that the idea of Adam living 130 years and then that he begot Seth as opposed to begot the son and called him Seth, is that 130 and 130 we see the Shema. We see the need for us to listen, hear, listen, understand, perceive, discern, apply the word to our lives, and then be content in it. And that this brings forth, if it said Ben, if it said that somewhere in there that Yalad Ben, along those lines, then brought forth a son, then we would say, okay, well, Ben, Bana is established, that this is established in our life, the Shema is established in our lives. And he named that establishment Seth, which means compensation. or in other words, to establish compensation. But it simply says that he brought forward Seth. And the idea is that it's the Shema that brings forward compensation into our lives, compensation for what we say. The compensation is that Seth replaced Abel, and that when we have a relationship with Elohim, it replaces vanity. Abel comes from Havel, which means vanity. When we recite the Shema, we're saying, I am submitting myself to you. I'm giving up my vanity, and it brings forth compensation. That is our compensation, is the Torah. So that question is, we have words in English that help round out the Hebrew, when the Hebrew actually doesn't need to be rounded out. Anybody else?
Yes.
Yes.
On that page. Okay, back to, you were talking about petition, and that's like going before Elohim, and then inquiring is just
It's
seeking
just
answer.
seeking an answer. In entreat, from the word entreat, we're actually putting something before him. I need this. Help me with this.
Oh, okay.
When we inquire, we say, I have a problem, I need an answer. What do I do? And that's where the difference is.
They're very similar though, aren't they? I mean, it sounds very similar. They're very similar in a way, aren't they?
Well,
You could say that petition is a need and inquire is a question.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
You're
That's good.
asking for something to manifest itself, as opposed to asking for help. You know, there's a difference between needing $100 and having $100, but needing direction as to how to use $100. There's a difference in those two
Okay.
things. If I pray and I know that I need $100, I pray for $100.
That's a petition.
But if I have $100
And
and I have to divide it into 4 different things that equal $200, then I pray for guidance as to how to split that up so that it'll work.
Okay, thank you. That's a need. That's a need. And
Okey dokey. Well, I guess we've achieved grooviness
Yeah,
then.
the difference when it's